1900 or email tcoco@whav.net.
And good evening, everyone. I'm Tim Coco, and you're tuned correctly for the Open Mic Show, a 50-year staple of democracy in the Merrimack Valley. I'm sure Haverhill Community Television will be joining us shortly. That's a New England thing, isn't it? Shortly. Our own DJ Chris is in master control. You can't see him because I have his camera temporarily till we get another one in here. This is our second week of high-definition simulcast video at whav.tv, so bear with us if there are some occasional problems as we deal with that. This hour of the Open Mic Show is being brought to you by Haverhill Bank. Just one bank. All right, Chris, I can't see my camera, so in case you have to adjust it, please do so until I deal with that. And then you'll have to probably call Haverhill Community Television. All right, we're taking July birthdays and anniversary wishes. All you have to do is call 978-374-1900. Wish someone a happy anniversary, a couple happy anniversary in July, or a happy birthday, and they will be eligible to win a 7-inch cake from LBD's second-generation Italian bakery. You might want to move that into this corner so our guests will be able to come by. All right, speaking of guests, we have some exciting guests lined up for you this evening, and we'll be talking with Haverhill author Suzanne Marie DeWitt Hall. Suzanne Marie DeWitt Hall. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She's going to appear on the Open Mic Show just after the news at 7 o'clock to discuss her new book, Rumplepimple, The Adventures of Rumplepimple. Now, this is a colorfully illustrated children's book, and it tells the story from the perspective of Rumplepimple, a wire fox terrier with 2 human moms. Here's a description of the book. Life isn't easy when your big sister is an annoying cat and your moms can't understand a word you say, but that doesn't stop Rumplepimple from saving the day in a most unusual way. Find out how a car ride transforms a naughty terrier into a grocery store hero. That will be coming up after the news at 7:05. All right, I don't know if we have any more trivia questions from our friends at Kimball Tavern Antiques. Perhaps if they're listening, they'll have a trivia question. They have been very, very generous to you, Open Mic Show listeners, with many prizes over the years. Most often a $10 gift certificate to Kimball Tavern Antiques, but we've had baseball cards and all kinds of other gifts from our friends there, corner of Salem and South Main Streets in Haverhill. All right, let's discuss the ground rules. You can listen to the Open Mic Show on whav.net on your computer or smartphone. You can also listen on participating cable TV stations in Andover, Methuen, Channel 32 in Methuen on Comcast, I think on Verizon Fios. You think I'd know that by now. Channels 8 and 22 on Comcast and Methuen. Plasto, Channel 17 and 23. Sandown, Channel 17. Now, of course, the Open Mic Show comes with video. For the next 2 hours, you can watch at whav.tv on your computer or smartphone. And if the folks throw the switch, you'll be able to watch at Channel 22 on Haverhill Community Television. All right. I don't know if you've contributed yet. Perhaps you have. I'm going to go through a list of those who have contributed to WHAV's Make Waves campaign. This capital campaign will pay for the cost of putting a new WHAV FM on the air at 97.9. The Federal Communications Commission has granted a construction permit to this organization to put WHAV back on the air. Let's go through the list of contributors from start to finish. We really do appreciate the gifts. The first person to kick off the contributions, Al Brenner, Jack Roy, Tom Bergeron, who is honorary chairperson of the Make Waves campaign. Tom Bergeron, you may know him from Dancing with the Stars, or previously America's Funniest Home Videos, or Hollywood Squares. He got his start at WHAV in 1972 and has been a very strong supporter. Jessica Fittacaro, Dave Tibbetts, Mark LeMay, Larry Olasky, Elaine Barker, Larry Seaman, Gene Poth, WXBJ Radio right up there, and in Master Control are some friends from XBJ. You met Jay McDonough if you were watching an earlier open mic show, and now I'm going to have to be in this position. Engineer Mike, is it Hemian? Close enough, he said, but he'll fix me later. He might come on the program a little bit later and talk about some developments in television that might make you yet again be forced to buy a new television set. All right, continuing in the list, Jerry McCall, WHAV's environmental consultant, is a contributor. Eva Rashek, Mary O'Neill, Joseph Edwards, Pat Johnson. Pat Johnson is the widow of Edwin V. Johnson, for whom this newsroom is named. Carolyn and Charles Russell, Fred Simmons, Stan Colton, Jay McDonough appears on our list again. Connie Core, Michael Labonte, Tom Stites, Gregory and Joan Caleri, Alvinza Hansen, Donna Halper, a radio historian of great accolades, Kendall and Evelyn Smith, Thomas and Katina Mortimer, Ken Bernard, Eva Rashek again, David Goudswood, William and Maureen Ryan, if that name sounds familiar, that's Haverhill City Councilor, former Mayor Bill Ryan, Matt Pereira, a former WHAV intern, Marcia and Dale Rogers, City Councilor Colin LePage, Linda Kudelis, Haverhill City Clerk, Michael Schroth, Kerry Fitzgerald, former member of the Haverhill School Committee, and Gerard Boucher. Those are among the contributors to WHAV's Make Wave campaign to bring local news to FM. Of course, because we do this on air, it's one of the problems with live programming. Chris, there's a slide in documents on the TV computer, and it is, I think it's called Make Waves or something, but it'll be the newest one. If you could get that graphic, you'll see Tom Bergeron on the graphic. All right. All right, for the next half hour until our guests arrive, open lines to you, 978-374-1900, 978-374-1900. I thought maybe to kind of kick off the discussion, but you feel free to move it where you will. Haverhill is having a local election this year, city of 61,000 people, and it still seems like a small town at times. You can agree or disagree. Give me a call, 978-374-1900. But it looks like the most exciting race this year in Haverhill is going to be the school committee. Susan Dennehy, an incumbent, has decided not to run for re-election. So we have a definite open seat. Of course, one might argue that of the 3 seats up, they're all open, but incumbent Scott Wood and incumbent Sean Toohey are running for re-election, and the challengers are very interesting. Former Haverhill City Councilor Sven Amarian and Gail Sullivan, who came within 51 votes 2 years ago of getting on the school committee. So perhaps you have an opinion of who should be running. Chris, do we have a phone call? All right. I'm going to take a chance that red light means we do. You are on the open mic show.
Here we go.
You're on the air.
Hello.
Hi there.
My name is Alex. I'm calling. I've been a Haverhill native for years now, proud graduate of Haverhill High. And the reason for my call today was just to really discuss the current state of the Haverhill public school system. I actually think that things have gone pretty positively over the last few years, really regarding the renovations of the high school. I know that we've gotten the hunking project underway. I'm wondering what needs to be done. I wonder if we could just discuss this. Maybe you have some ideas. And I'm really just looking to have a conversation around that.
All right. So, is this your first time calling the station?
Yeah.
Well, thank you. So, is this your first? Thank you very much for calling. All right. Well, it's going to be an interesting race this year. I don't know if you just heard my comments. It's going to be an interesting race on the school committee. We elect half the school committee every 2 years. So this time we have Sean Toohey, Scott Wood as incumbents, and then we have about 3 challengers. Now, the school department, well, it's always an interesting issue because there's never enough money, and it seems like right now the biggest issue is special education cost. Do you have a thought on that?
Just regarding special education costs, I always thought that the amount of staffing didn't quite meet the need, at least at Haverhill High. It wasn't too integrated with the general student population, and those are just some observations that I had.
All right. I mean, what is your interest as a taxpayer, as a former student? Are you running for office?
No, I just...
Are you there, caller? All right, I'm not quite sure what that was all about. So we'll remain open lines for the open mic show, 978-374-1900. If you're shy and you just want to give me some information, you can't win a prize this way, but if you're shy, you can email me directly at tcoco, T-C-O-C-O, at whav.net. There's also a message board below the TV screen at whav.TV. I don't see anything there right now. We are having a few lines through our high definition photos, but we'll save that. As Mark LeMay, former WHAV news director, often reminds me, this is a radio show that happens to be on television, so we'll ignore some of our TV problems. Okay, we have another call. You are on the open mic show.
Nice to be here, Tim.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm okay. How about you?
All right, I'm very good. I haven't heard from you in a few weeks. What's happening in your life?
Not a whole lot.
All right.
I called in with a birthday wish to kick off the July birthdays.
Oh, very good, very good. And who might be maybe, on your list for a birthday cake?
This would be Jackie.
Jackie. All right, that's a female?
Yep.
You know, most of your calls are, but every now and then you'll surprise me. So,
yeah.
This is the man with 200 girlfriends, and if they all knew.
Yeah, where are they?
Yeah. All right. So it's happy birthday, Jackie. When is her birthday?
July 7th.
July 7th. Okay, so about a month away. All right, well, Jackie is the first person this month to become eligible for a free 7-inch cake from LBD's second-generation Italian bakery, 140 South Main Street in Bradford. Hey, by the way, I think you've had a few of your designees win over the last few months. Has anyone shared a piece of cake with you?
Not yet.
Not yet? My goodness, what are they, ungrateful?
That's okay, I don't deserve any.
Yeah, you deserve cake. All right, but you... all right, well, I'd like to, just think it seems fair that you call in so many birthdays that they don't share a piece of cake with you, but that's all right. All right. Well, what do you think of the elections this year? The papers aren't due until the end of next month, so there may be more surprises coming, but I was surprised by Sven Amarian running for school committee. If you remember, he served 6 months of his second term on the city council before leaving for the chamber. Do you have any thoughts on the elections?
I didn't know Sven was going to be running for school committee.
Yeah, he decided. It's on WHAV News. We've reported it. We're the only ones to report it, but I guess that's why we have the slogan, the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free. But I can work that in. Thank you, Brian. But he is... he probably saw that there was going to be a vacancy and, figured it might be easier to do that for a comeback in politics. So Susan Danahy is not running. So that puts us, and I think we have another person, I think it's off the top of my head. I don't have the list in front of me. Michael Sherman. So there is going to be, assuming they all file their papers, a race for school committee this year.
And do we have any other city council candidates this time around?
Yes, there's a couple. I will get that list. After the break and go through that. But so far, all of the incumbents have taken out papers for council, and unless this changed today, except for City Council President John Mitchison.
Really?
Now, he has plenty of time to do it, but of course it leads some of us to speculate that maybe, once again, he is considering a higher office. As you may know, he ran for mayor at one time.
I remember that, yeah.
There is a challenger for the mayor's seat. We'll go through that after the break as well. Not a known name, although that wouldn't be the first time that's happened. So, the race will play out. We'll see how it goes. Do you have any particular concerns about any existing candidates, or do you have a dream list of who you'd like to run?
No, I can't really say. I can't really say.
Maybe we should put your name in nomination.
Oh, no. I could never keep up. I thought of that when watching these people with their packets, especially when they get them last minute. I would not be able to keep up with everything.
Oh, maybe get the hang of it. But then again, I think you probably would read your packets ahead of the meetings. They do come out on Friday afternoon, after all. Those who haven't read them by Tuesday, maybe shame on them. But I guess they would probably have to convert it to Braille, or do you have another way to read written text?
Well, there's Braille. There's also MP3, the computerized files, things like that. They get them in print. They would have to scan them.
Well, they do send a PDF file now. So
yeah,
if you have
I'm not too thrilled with PDF.
What's that?
I'm not too thrilled with the portable document.
Okay, not easy to convert to a screen reader or whatever tool you use?
Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Sometimes I have to just use the workaround.
Oh, which is? What is that?
Well, what I did last time was I had to actually print it to a virtual printer.
Okay.
And just kind of try to read it that way.
Oh, I see.
That's how I did it. And right now, I have a new computer. A new old computer, shall I say?
Oh, yes.
And I just don't have it all together yet.
All right. So you haven't been able to listen to WHAV streams then?
Well, if I would sit in that computer room and listen, but I'm on Channel 22.
All right.
And
well,
I'm
of course.
for the Talking Information Center to switch over,
Yeah, I haven't quite figured that one out yet. Obviously, we have annoyed Haverhill Community Television somehow. The only thing I can imagine that we've done that they don't like is report the news. Haverhill City Councilors and the mayor took Haverhill Community Television to task over the arrangement of its board of directors. And all WHAV did was report that. And my former boss, I used to call him my old boss, Barney Gallagher, would object to the term old, but the late Barney Gallagher now, he said if no one is happy with the news, then you must have done a good job. So I'm gonna take that and see how it goes. All right, we do have to take a break. Anything else on your mind?
No, I just patiently waiting for you to answer those pictures of my old house.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm going to have to check a different source for those because I have also switched computers since those pictures, and I'm hoping they are still on a backup drive. But feel free. I
hope so.
But feel free to remind me again.
I just don't have them anymore.
We still have them on whav.net, but they'll be lower resolution there.
Yeah.
All right. I'll make a note of it, and we'll try to do those for you. I'm going to write it down right now. Old-fashioned pen and paper still works. Photos of School Street, right?
Yep.
All right, then. All right, Brian, thank you very much for your call and kicking off the birthdays for July.
Okay, Tim.
All right, take care, Brian.
I'll be talking to you. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, that was the famous Lieutenant Brian Langlois. By the way, if you want to contribute to a Brian Langlois Relief Fund, you may remember the story. Brian, who was blind, his wife was also blind, and she passed away last year. And then while people were in the house, apparently someone stole his life savings that was in a safe. They took the safe and all, and it's put Brian in a pretty bad position. So you can contribute to the Brian Langlois Relief Fund at any Haverhill Bank branch, and then for Langlois, it doesn't look the way it sounds. It's Langlois, Langlois, but Langlois. All right, we have to take a break right now. I think this hour we have Mass Moments, this day in Massachusetts history, and we'll be back right after that.
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
Still not sure when your favorite features are broadcast? Check out the What's On page at www.whav.net for complete listings.
Catch the wave!
On the next Making Contact. We focus a lot on what people say, but on this program, we're going to be listening more to how they say it.
I lost my voice 4 times. And each time I recovered, I took a couple of days off, and the 4th time it happened, I'm like, something's really, really, really wrong.
What do our voices say about us? On this edition, we explore voice and identity.
So maybe one day my device can show my emotions more, or represent who I am.
From someone who nearly lost one voice and found their true voice in the process, to the challenges that come ordering a pizza with a speech-generating device.
Making Contact is heard every Wednesday night at 6:30. Remember, only local radio can bring you such compelling features, but only WHAV does.
Today is June 8th. On this day in 1951, the Children's Cancer Research Foundation was incorporated. Founded by pioneering Boston physician Sidney Farber, it was the first cancer center in the country designed specifically for children. In the days when childhood leukemia was an almost certain death sentence, the center combined treatment that extended children's lives and research that might someday lead to a cure. The foundation adopted the name Jimmy Fund, and with the help of countless people from all walks of life, baseball stars and police chiefs, Little League players and moviegoers, the fund has raised millions of dollars to provide care for children battling cancer. Now called the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, it is one of the foremost cancer centers in the world. For more about this and other Mass Moments, go online to massmoments.org. Brought to you by the Massachusetts Foundation for the Humanities.
WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin B. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Welcome back to the Open Mic Show. I'm Tim Coco, your host. DJ Chris Porter is in master control, producing the program as expertly as he always does, with always a new wrinkle. This time we have lines through our TV picture for those, but again, it's a radio show. I'm going to keep reminding myself that. If you're just joining us, Haverhill author Suzanne Marie DeWitt Hall appears live on this program just after the news at 7:05 or so, about 10 minutes from now. She is going to be discussing her new colorfully illustrated children's book, and that book tells the story from the perspective of Rumplepimple, a wire fox terrier with 2 human moms. All right, so the Adventures of Rumplepimple. Well, we're going to hear more about that right after the news. Now, again, we're taking July birthdays and anniversaries. The winner will receive a free 7-inch cake from LBD's second-generation Italian bakery, 140 South Main Street in Bradford. So if you know a couple that's celebrating an anniversary in July, call right now, 978-374-1900, and wish them a happy anniversary. Same for birthdays. You know someone who's having a birthday? You don't have to give their age. You don't have to give their last names. In fact, we discourage that. You can call and wish them a happy birthday. Then we take all those names, put them in the hat, and we'll draw it on the last Monday of the month. So it's really nothing could be easier than that, and the odds are usually pretty good. Brian just kicked off the month by calling in a July birthday for Jackie. This hour of the Open Mic Show is being brought to you by Haverhill Bank. Just one bank. All right, about 4 minutes at the top of the hour. Is that possible, Chris? 4 minutes. I always go over my breaks. I get in big trouble over here. I don't know what it is. But 4 minutes before the top of the hour, we'll just spend maybe a little bit of time talking about the upcoming election season. It's a local election year, and that means some contested races. Right now, the interest seems to be on the Haverhill School Committee race, where the incumbent, Susan Danahy, has decided not to run for re-election, creating an open seat. Incumbents Sean Toohey and Scott Wood, school committee president, are running. As a matter of fact, Scott kicked off his campaign last Wednesday with a big announcement, and that was carried by WHAV News. Well, City Councilor Sven Amirian, former City Councilor Sven Amirian, is seeking a seat on the school committee. Now, I think most people thought if he made a political comeback, it would be to his old seat on the City Council. Perhaps he was concerned that voters may not readily put him back there because he resigned 6 months into his second term to take a job with the Greater Haverhill Chamber of Commerce. I'm not sure people would have dismissed him outright. I think everyone understands that your day job probably comes first. But I don't know, maybe you have a thought on that. Maybe we can discuss that later in the next hour. But Gail Sullivan was another surprise. Maybe it shouldn't have been. She came within 51 votes of winning a seat on the school committee last time. Now, she's a former principal, former superintendent, clearly has the credentials of an educator, and maybe that's something voters will be looking for the Haverhill School Committee. City Council, all 8 of the 9 incumbents, unless something has changed today, 8 of the 9 incumbents have taken out papers. The only holdout appears to be City Council President John Mitchison. Perhaps if John wants to call the program and let us know his plans, he's welcome to do so. 978-374-1900. And the mayor's seat, so far only I hate to call someone not very well known, but I don't think he's very well known. In fact, I can't remember his name right now, is the only challenger. to Haverhill Mayor James J. Fiorentini. But someone's been doing a poll. If you have a landline at home, I, in fact, gave up my landline for my cell phone, so I don't tend to get these polls anymore. But someone has been doing a poll asking lots of questions, and speculation, it's someone who is trying to decide whether or not to run for mayor. If you have any inside scoops on that, please feel free. 978-374-1900. Let us know. All right, we're going to, for the first time in the history of this program, go to News on Time. News Director Dana Esmel brings us today's local headlines. We'll have national news also from FSN, local weather with meteorologists who are right here in the Merrimack Valley giving you accurate forecasts, and then we'll be back with the Open Mic Show.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
It's 7:01.
WHAV Merrimack Valley. WHAV is a not-for-profit service of Public Media of New England Incorporated. It's heard on 1640 AM, the web, at whav.net, and participating cable television stations.
Here's what's happening in local news. A, quote, domestic dispute led Haverhill police to a search Friday afternoon for a woman on wooded trails around Winnikinny Park and Canosa Lake who was found unharmed after being the alleged victim of a threat against her well-being. Haverhill Police Captain Kim Paralisi told WHAV investigators responded to a call, quote, from a third party, telling police a woman stated a man, quote, was going to kill her and then left. Officers on all-terrain vehicles searched the area for a motorcycle on which an unidentified suspect fled after a witness gave police a license plate number. Police had also sought the public's help by posting a photo of the woman on their Facebook page, but shortly afterwards she walked out of the woods to officers unharmed, according to Paralisi. The search was called off when, through a plate check, a male party was found with help from Merrimack Police, Paralisi said. However, he declined to identify the man or comment on whether any charges were filed. A state police helicopter also assisted in the search, according to Paralisi. 3 people are due to be arraigned in Haverhill District Court on drunk driving and motor vehicle charges following separate arrests over the weekend. According to Haverhill Police, Jairo Ruiz, 45, address not listed, was arrested at 9:58 p.m. Saturday at 400 Lowell Avenue. He was charged with operating a motor vehicle under the influence of liquor, operating after license revocation, refusal to identify self, and giving a false name to police. He was also taken into custody on an outstanding warrant charging him with perjury, uttering a false document, and making a false application for a license. Earlier Saturday, police report Judy A. Houle, 52, of 22 Phoenix Row, Unit 203, Haverhill, was arrested at 5:55 p.m. at 2 Water Street. She was charged with operating a motor vehicle under the influence of liquor, operating under the influence of drugs, and possession of a Class E drug. She was also taken into custody on a warrant charging her with operating a motor vehicle with a suspended registration and operating an uninsured motor vehicle. Also, police arrested Walter Avila, 29, of 21 4th Avenue, Unit 2, Haverhill, at 10 p.m. Friday at 73 White Street. He was charged with operating a motor vehicle under the influence of liquor and unlicensed operation of a motor vehicle. In other police news, a Haverhill woman is due in court to face charges in connection with the disturbance early Sunday morning at 85 White Street. According to Haverhill Police, Caitlin L. Zangari, 24, of 113 White Street, Haverhill, was arrested at 2:30 a.m. Sunday. She was charged with disorderly conduct, intimidation of a witness, and threatening. The month of June means bi-weekly meetings for the Haverhill City Council as it enters its summer schedule. The Council will next meet in regular session Tuesday, June 16. The Council will resume its weekly meeting schedule on Tuesday, September 8. U.S. Small Business Administration Massachusetts Director Robert Nelson will be the featured speaker at the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce's annual Small Business Recognition Awards breakfast Friday, June 12. The event, to be held from 7:30 to 9 a.m. at DeBurrows Function Hall, 887 Boston Road, Ward Hill, will recognize area small businesses in categories of, among others, innovative, minority-owned, nonprofit, perseverance, and, quote, a special salute to family-owned businesses, end quote. Cost is $25 for MVCC members and $35 for non-members. For more information, visit www.merrimackvalleychamber.com or call 978-686-0900. In local high school sports, the Haverhill Hillies are off Monday. Meanwhile, the Whittier Tech Wildcats baseball and softball teams are in playoff action. The boys varsity baseball team hosts Pentucket Regional High School at 4 p.m. in the second round action of the MIAA State Tourney. The game will be played at Whittier Tech's Boland Field. Girls softball also in action at 4 p.m. in the MIAA State quarterfinals. For more details, visit whav.net. Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free. In the Edwin V. Johnson newsroom, this is Dana Esmel.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Rebecca Foster. Talks on Ukraine dominated a wide-ranging agenda for the G7 summit, now wrapped up in Kroon, Germany. The leaders from the world's largest economies also discussed the expansion of the Islamic State group, the Greek debt deal, and even the FIFA scandal. Our correspondent Priscilla Huff reports.
Russia continues to violate Ukraine's sovereignty by allowing its military to operate in the eastern region of that country. That's according to U.S. President Barack Obama, who says Russian President Vladimir Putin has a choice. Does he continue to destroy his own country's economy, or
does he recognize that Russia's greatness does not depend on violating the territorial integrity and sovereignty of other countries?
On the Islamic State threat, President Obama said after the G7 summit, the coalition continues to offer help, but a political solution for Iraq is as important as military. The G7 leaders also mulled over Greece's debt dilemma, cybersecurity, and even the broadening FIFA scandal.
The United Nations has accused Eritrea of crimes against humanity in a new report detailing human rights violations in the East African state. UN investigators said in a statement the human rights abuses were happening on a scale seldom witnessed elsewhere, and that up to 5,000 people a month are risking death to escape the country. Patrice Howard has this report.
The UN Commission found systematic, widespread human rights violations in Eritrea, including torture, sexual slavery, enforced labor, and illegal killings. The 484-page report released Monday details how these crimes against humanity are carried out and even encouraged by Eritrea's government authorities. The inquiry found the government recruiting people for national service to the country, which involves arbitrary detention, torture, and forced labor. Witnesses say those who avoid the draft are executed, and the 6 to 10% of Eritreans who have escaped the violence are now registered as refugees by the UN.
The manhunt continues for convicted killers Richard Matt and David Sweat, who escaped from a prison in upstate New York over the weekend. The two, who were first discovered missing early Saturday morning, are believed to have orchestrated their escape using power tools to penetrate the prison walls. Mimi Chahiman has more from New York.
As the manhunt enters a third day, more than 250 law enforcement and corrections officials are actively engaged in the search. New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo is offering a $50,000 reward per inmate for information leading directly to their arrest. This isn't the first prison break for 48-year-old Matt, who escaped from prison in 1986. He was serving 25 years to life for 3 counts of murder, kidnapping, and robbery. 34-year-old Sweat was serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole for the murder of a sheriff's deputy. Mimi Chahiman, New York.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Wave weather.
I'm WHAV meteorologist Gary Best with wave weather. Breezy and mild for the Merrimack Valley through the night with a lot of clouds in general. A chance of scattered showers, maybe a thunderstorm. Low temperature, low 60s. Now, periods of clouds on Tuesday with scattered showers and thunderstorms, mid-70s. Any showers in Tuesday evening down to 60 overnight. Mostly sunny and warm Wednesday. High temperature back up to 80 to 85. This is Gary Best. You're next to Wave Weather coming up in 30 minutes.
Your donations enable WHAV to remain local and independent. Consider giving what you can afford at WHAV.net.
WHAV, Merrimack Valley, open mic.
From the Edwin B. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Welcome back to the Open Mic Show, a 50-year staple of democracy in the Merrimack Valley. This hour of the Open Mic being brought to you by Haverhill Bank. Just one bank. All right, in the studio now is a local author, Haverhill author. Actually, I don't know if you use your middle name, but I saw it on your Facebook. Suzanne Marie DeWitt Hall.
Right. It's a lot of names.
All right. I don't know if you use your middle name. Suzanne Marie DeWitt Hall. All right. You have published a book. It is out, right? You published the book. You published the book Rumplepimple. The event, and in parentheses, The Adventures of Rumplepimple.
I should hold it up so it can be seen.
That's right. Let's hold up the book. Unfortunately, we temporarily have this non-zoomable camera because we're trying to do HD. But anyway, we actually, Chris, in the graphics, for those of you watching on WHAV.TV or Haverhill Community Television, it's either, if I haven't brought it in to the program, you might have to get it out of the folder, but it is, I think it's Rumplepimple cover, and we'll have a close-up of that. We'll also have a close-up of what I call the cast, and so you might want to see if you have that in there. A little bit, we get a little delay on this. Okay, well, that's the cast. Let's start there then.
The family.
Let's start with the family. From left to right, we'll say.
Yeah.
Who do we have there?
Well, we have one of Rumplepimple's moms. That's my wife, Diane, and then Rumplepimple himself. And then that's sort of me, but we had to pay the artist extra to get me to look kind of like her. And then there's Rumplepimple's bossy cat named Chicken.
All right. Well, it's interesting. You made a comment. So these are based on real people.
Oh, yes. And the story was based on a real story, actually.
So, based on real people, real story. So there really is a Rumplepimple?
There is, yeah. His actual name is Charles Montgomery DeWitt Hall.
Charles Montgomery DeWitt Hall, and he is a wire fox terrier.
He is, yeah.
With a very, very impressive name.
Yes. But it's a big name. It's too much of a name. And I have always been a nickname kind of a person, so people I love and pets, they always end up with some strange name. And Charlie one day...
I had a cat named Throckmorton P. Gildersleeve.
Oh my goodness, that's more of a mouthful.
For those in radio who know that, right? Throckmorton P. Gildersleeve.
Is
a radio
that a character? Oh, no wonder.
It's a radio show character from The Great Gildersleeve.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
But anyway... all right, so that was our cast, and I think, I don't know where I picked this up from, maybe from your Facebook page, but a description of the book. Life isn't easy when your big sister is an annoying cat, and your moms can't understand a word you say. But that doesn't stop Rumplepimple from saving the day in a most unusual way. Find out how a car ride transforms a naughty terrier into a grocery store hero. All right. This book is for children.
It is.
All right. And but is there a recommended age group?
I think there can be kind of a range. I'd say 4 to maybe 8 or 10. It's not an easy reader, so that children learning to read, it's not, the language wasn't simplified like that. It's more meant to be read to the younger kids, and then the older kids can read it themselves. It's got humor that appeals to multiple ages.
And every page of the book is illustrated, I think I noticed.
Yes.
And that illustrator is Kevin Scott, is it?
Gierman.
Gierman. You know these names. I should have checked pronunciation. Kevin Scott Gierman. Yeah. Now, have you written any books before this?
Well, I've got a couple of other children's books that I haven't published yet. I'm working on the Great American Novel. I used to be in high-tech journalism in the software internationalization and localization process. So I've done some writing there.
You want to fix our TV problem?
I don't know. I'm not. I don't think I could do that.
Okay.
So, miscellaneous stuff.
Well, actually, maybe that's a better place for us to start, and then we'll discuss the book more after the break. But all right, you are relatively new to Haverhill.
We are, yeah.
You were born and grew up in Hornell, New York.
Well, I spent most of my childhood there, yeah.
Where is that? Is that in upstate or New York City area, or?
It's down near the border of Pennsylvania, kind of near Corning, Elmira, those sorts of towns. Very small town, beautiful valley.
All right, and then you, let me see. You went to Hornell Senior High School.
I did.
And then Monroe Community College. Where is that?
That was in Rochester, New York.
In Rochester.
Yep.
And then St. Bernard School of Theology.
Just did that a little bit, yeah.
Okay. So that, what were your goals then?
Well, believe it or not, I wanted to do, I had this dream of doing Catholic apologetics on the radio. I wanted to be like a Catholic radio host.
Oh.
This was when I was married to a man and sort of determined to be a good Catholic wife. And then life did a 180 in 2010.
Oh, 2010.
And everything changed, yeah.
5 years ago.
Yep.
Oh, all right. Well, that's interesting because we had a competitor for our new FM license at the Catholic Church, and so maybe they have an opening there. But we worked.
It'd be interesting if they brought me on.
We worked out a settlement so that we're both going to be on the air. So they moved west. Our tower is going to move east. So we'll both be on the air. We'll be at 97.9. They'll be at 98.1.
Okay.
It'll be a little tight on the dial.
I guess
there.
so.
All right.
Sooner didn't find.
Now but besides the books, then you've certainly been doing some other writing, and you are a columnist where?
For Merrimack Valley Magazine, actually.
How long have you been doing that?
Oh, let's see, 3 or 4 years, I'd say. Maybe.
All right. What kinds of things do you write about?
I write about all sorts of things.
I mean, the news type items, or?
Yeah,
I have to admit, I do read the magazine, especially since I'm in it this month. But I didn't happen to notice who was writing the columns. Yeah, that's right.
Here it is.
I've offered the publisher, Glenn Prezano, a chance to be on the air, so maybe you can push him for me.
Well, the man likes to talk, so I'll mention that. You'd probably be a great guest for you.
So have him on the air. Hey, Glenn, did you hear that?
I'm telling you, you know he liked to talk.
I thought he liked to talk, but he disputed that in a long conversation we had. All right, folks, we're going to take a brief break for Community Spotlight. We'll be back with more of the Open Mic Show and Suzanne DeWitt Hall after this.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
Phil Christie here. Did you know you can hear comedy and drama every night? Listen to these remastered classics at 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. Only local radio can bring you this combination of music, news, and features, but only WHAV does.
Community Spotlight is brought to you by Haverhill Bank. Haverhill Bank is a generous supporter of the area's civic and cultural programs.
That's all it takes, it's just one bank. Haverhill Bank. Open Mic!
From the Edwin B. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
I was listening to the delay, folks, and so I didn't realize we were back live. Just troubleshooting some problems with the signal to Haverhill Community Television. You might have to ask them to refresh that. Okay. We're back here in the studio this hour of the Open Mic Show being brought to you by Haverhill Bank. Just one bank. About 20 minutes past the hour, we're with Suzanne Marie DeWitt Hall. All right, where we left our hero was on the way to the supermarket, I guess.
That's right.
We don't want to give away too much, I wouldn't think. But here is a book. How can people receive this children's book?
All the usual places. It's available on Amazon.com. That's probably the easiest. And the name is unusual enough that if you just search for Rumplepimple, you'll find it.
Okay, Rumplepimple on Amazon. What I trying to think if we have a link anymore from our website. We might, you know what? We have a section on the bottom of our website for local authors.
Oh, great.
And I will try, feel free to bother me about this,
Okay.
I will try to add to that, because on the bottom of our web pages, we have local authors.
Oh, that's terrific.
And we have a selfish motive, by the way, because these are Haverhill authors on the bottom of the page here. The top is books by David Goudswood, and there's Scott Feibush, who's a radio historian, Arthur Helvisi, James Vanderpool, Chris and Nancy Obert, so you'll be in good company.
Terrific.
We'll try to add it there. But our selfish motive is if you buy the book through whav.net, we make a little something on that to
Well,
help pay
there's
for the
nothing
station.
wrong with that.
And I'm told they don't take it away from the author. So you don't lose anything at our expense.
It's an affiliate link or something. Great.
Affiliate
Yeah,
link.
by all means.
So, all right, so we'll try to add that to whav.net.
Mhm.
But all right, how much can we tell the audience about the book so that we tease it enough that they buy it but don't give away the whole story?
Sure.
What can you tell us about, well, since it's he, right?
He, yep.
Since Rumplepimple is an actual dog,
Yes.
and I see you brought a mascot of
I
sorts.
did. Here's what he kind of looks like. This was made by a fiber artist after the actual Rumplepimple.
Oh, all right.
So he kind of looks like this, only bigger.
So Rumplepimple. Chris, did you find those graphics, by the way? All right. All right. If you could occasionally put them on, and we'll try to keep track of them as well. We have a book cover, and we have the cast. Maybe run that from time to time, and I'll switch our screen to this. It's hard to do two things at once.
I can
talk
imagine.
on the radio and click a link. But in any event, what is it? Click a link. What is Rumple? You didn't tell me we had double audio. You didn't tell me we had double audio. All right. I fixed that problem too. All right.
You're triple tasking.
All right. So, tell us about Rumplepimple, the actual dog, and how does he differ from the dog in the book?
He's not a whole lot different from the dog in the book. He's a typical werefox terrier who tend to be kind of naughty and get themselves into strange and crazy situations. I saw some pictures on your Facebook page of antics your dog gets up to, and it looks like it might be kind of similar.
Oh, did you see the mess and my new tie on the floor?
Yeah.
And well, you see, our dog is 13 years old.
Oh.
His name is Q-Tip. See, we all have names like that.
There you go, Q-Tip and Rumplepimple.
Q-Tip. And after all these years, we thought Q-Tip needed some company. He's deaf, and so we bought another Maltese named Pure White.
Beautiful dogs.
And somehow they acted like a couple of teenagers, snuck off to the kitchen one night, and we have 3 more. So there are 5 dogs in the household for the time being.
Wow.
So in any event, they've all been fixed now.
So
all right,
there won't be a whole party going on.
So we have a naughty dog, too.
There you go.
There you go. But
well, that mess reminded me of one of the scenes in the book where Charlie we left him in the car, took him for a ride. He loves rides. And when my wife Diane came back out, he had figured out how to get the top off a jar of peanuts. And so peanuts were spilled everywhere, and he had a bottle of Diet Coke, and he was flipping it into the air, and Coke was spraying out all over the place. He had opened that, too. So that's what she came to back in the car. So that's one of the scenes in the book.
All right. So how would you recommend? You recommend a parent read the book to the child and then show the photographs, and then maybe they're a little bit older, they could read it? There's not very much text, is that right?
No, it's pretty simple, but the language, with early readers, for the younger kids, some of the words might just be too hard, but they'd still enjoy the story. And in this particular, for this adventure, we plan on it being a series of adventures. In this adventure...
So this is first in a series.
It is, yeah. In this one, he ends up jumping out of the car at the grocery store, racing across the parking lot, and running into Shaw's. And this actually was a real thing that happened in Newburyport, at the Shaw's in Newburyport. And when my wife Diane went in chasing him, she eventually found him at the meat counter, standing up sniffing the meat. So I thought it would make a neat story to kind of explain that maybe there was something going on, why he would act naughty. So that's kind of the idea of the series, is that there's reasons he acts naughty.
This is kind of like, we talked about this during the break in the control room, but Timmy and Lassie. So it's not true that Lassie pushed Timmy in the well or the mine shaft or all those other places.
Right.
All right.
It's a big setup.
So much for that. All right, so Rumplepimple is an adventurous dog.
He is.
But you describe him as naughty, but you're saying there might be a method to his madness.
That's right. Well, there's a big following for wire fox terriers. It's almost obsessive love for these dogs. And so in the internet, there's lots of Facebook pages and things that refer to naughty terriers. So I think they kind of get the naughty rap, whether they deserve it or not.
All right.
They're feisty.
Chris, do we have we run the photo of the cast again from the book? I think it's very. Now, did the publisher pair you with the illustrator? How did that come about?
Now, we had a friend, Dr. Paul Jansen, who wrote some books about adoption. He adopted his girls, and we really liked the illustrations and the style, and thought it would be a good fit. So we kind of met him through Dr. Jansen.
Okay. Well, it looks like it's wonderfully illustrated. And now, tell us about this cat. This cat is wrapped around your leg in the illustration.
Right.
And apparently, let me see, what did we say about this? The Rumpelstiltskin, I was going to do that.
That's where it came from, so I'm not surprised.
Rumplepimple, big sister, is an annoying cat. What's the cat's name?
Her name is Chicken.
Her name is Chicken.
Yep.
There's got to be a story behind that.
It's the nickname thing. Sometimes you can't remember how, but we got her. Her real name is Anastasia Butterscotch.
Anastasia Butterscotch is the real name of the cat, who is the focus of this background character, whatever the correct term is, in this story of Rumplepimple's first adventure.
Part of the family. She came first. She was there first, so she thinks she's kind of the boss, which cats do. I mean, cats are the boss no matter what. So he wants to have a little resistance against that.
Will you be doing any local author signing, maybe at the Haverhill Public Library, or have you even looked into that possibility?
Yeah, we haven't lined those up. My mom has been, my own mom is elderly, and the last couple of months she's been in and out of the hospital, so we've been really busy. We just got back from being out of town, so all that stuff is in the works. My wife, handily enough, is a social media strategist for authors and for books, so she's going to have me running all around the land.
That's right. She's the one who's been communicating with me.
Yes.
And I'll have to admit, at first I was looking only at the last name, so sometimes I think I probably said to her that I thought I was communicating with you. So
Oh, that makes sense.
But somehow we've got it all together.
Yep.
All right. So she does book promotion. In fact, is that the name of her web?
I Promote Books. Yeah, that's her business name. Yep.
Makes it easy to remember what she does as a result. All right. So I take it you're not a full-time author then?
I'm
a starving artist category?
Definitely starving artist. Yeah, I'm a freelance writer full-time, which means that, we have to buy rice and beans a lot.
All right. Well, I understand. I'm a volunteer president of this radio station. So, you do what you love.
That's right.
And then you do something else to pay for it. So I understand.
Yeah.
All right. Once again, the book is ideal for children. Did you say 4?
4 to 8, probably 10.
4 to 8. You can buy it on Amazon.com. We're going to try to get something on the bottom of WHAV's homepage with other authors. And the author is Suzanne DeWitt Hall. And the book, Rumplepimple, purchase it at Amazon.com. And perhaps we'll see you at some local author signing events.
You absolutely will. You can stay tuned to the Rumplepimple Facebook page. He's got his own page. That'll have announcements about activities. Or his website.
Well, I should have asked if you had a photograph for our TV viewers, maybe next time, of the real Rumplepimple and so on. But, do you have one?
I think we've got one in the back here. I'm not sure how well it'll show up, but we'll give it a try.
We can hold it in front of the camera.
Okay.
This will annoy Chris as I go over time here. All right. We might have the actual Rumplepimple right here. I don't know how well this is going to work. No.
He's hard to see, but you can see him.
There you go, folks. I somehow cannot seem to get this to go the right direction. But in any event, everything's
it's
backwards.
The real thing.
All right. Well, Suzanne, it's been a great pleasure to have you on the Open Mic Show. We look forward to learning more about Rumplepimple and his subsequent adventures. Let me throw one other thing out here while I'm on the air. See, in Haverhill, you're new to Haverhill, but in Haverhill, this is like Hooterville. If you remember, Sam Drucker, who ran the general store, was also the postmaster and did a bunch of other things in Hooterville. Well, I'm also president of the John Greenleaf Whittier birthplace.
Oh.
And we're planning at some point an Author's Day.
What fun.
And so perhaps I'll actually get it set up, and perhaps you'll be able to join us, and people can actually buy the book. Perhaps, I know
Would love
usually,
to.
And usually the publishers sell it to you at a partial discount. You still lose your shirt, if I understand publishing. But pardon me, we have a lot of authors who come on the program, and unless you're New York Times bestseller, it's a labor of love.
That's true. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah.
All right. So we look forward to seeing you about town.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Keep us updated on your progress.
Will do.
All right. Folks, we're going to take a break for local weather. We'll be back with more of the Open Mic Show and your calls after this.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
It's 7:33.
The Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom turns out local programs every day and night. Tune in for local news, community spotlight, and the Open Mic Show. Only local radio can bring you local news, but only WHAV does.
Catch the wave!
The most trusted man in America, news anchor Walter Cronkite, once said, "It is absolutely essential in a democracy to have competition in the media, a lot of competition." That sentiment is one of the driving forces behind WHAV's expanded local news effort. This is News Director Dana Esmail inviting you to listen to my hourly weekday newscasts right here on WHAV. You'll also find the area's most comprehensive local news reporting at whav.net on your computer or smartphone. Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free.
And that's the way it is.
Wave weather.
I'm WHAV meteorologist Gary Best with wave weather. Breezy and mild for the Merrimack Valley through the night with a lot of clouds in general. A chance of scattered showers, maybe a thunderstorm. Low temperature, low 60s. Now, periods of clouds on Tuesday with scattered showers and thunderstorms, mid-70s. Any showers in Tuesday evening, down to 60 overnight. Mostly sunny and warm Wednesday. High temperature back up to 80 to 85. This is Gary Best. Your next wave weather coming up in 30 minutes.
Soft gold favorites. Catch the wave, WHAV. Open mic.
From the Edwin B. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
And we're back on the Open Mic Show. I'm Tim Coco, your host. DJ Chris Porter, the man who works at 5 radio stations. I don't know, I keep exaggerating. I don't know how many it is now, but all for nothing, too. That's a person who loves radio. So anyway, in master control. All right, this hour of the Open Mic Show is being brought to you by the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council. Smart companies. Choose the Merrimack Valley. All right, we do have a caller on the line. We're going to have open lines off and on through the rest of the program, 978-374-1900. Let's, Chris, is he on yours? Yeah. All right. Let's go to Jerry in Methuen. Jerry, how are you?
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much for the note that you sent me. I really appreciate it. And
listeners, in case you're wondering, Jerry apparently became very, very ill, and I found out about it when Jerry left me a message. So you're on the mend now?
Yes, I'm on the mend, doing exercises, and that's what I want to talk to you about. I was at the Lawrence General first, and then Salem Rehab, not Salem Rehab, Northeast Rehab, secondly, and I was kind of impressed by both doctors. Really strongly recommended low sodium diets, and we had been doing that for a long time, but the thing that kind of interested me is that we can read labels of foods, etc. We can eat foods that only that have low sodium and no sodium. But every day we drink water that, in many cases, is much higher than what's called the recommended guideline for sodium.
Now, Jerry, just so our listeners know, Jerry's about to get into something, but he's not only telling you his personal story. Jerry was a 50-year employee, was it, of the Department of Environmental Protection in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts?
51 years, and I was my water supply was my specialty, drinking water.
So drinking water. So over the years, folks, you may have noticed, and maybe Jerry will start with this, you may have noticed more recently, or maybe over the last few years, but certainly more than had been in the past, you'll see certain signs telling you in the winter that certain roads aren't being salted, and that is to protect our water supply. Jerry, can you tell us about that?
Well, for example, around Artichoke Reservoir, basically they have to use, say, calcium chloride, something like that. They can't use sodium. There are a number of reservoirs where there are bans on the use of sodium because it adds to our drinking water, which affects your health, really. There's all kinds of health information on sodium in foods, etc., sodium in drinking water, and as a result of that, EPA has not established it as a standard, which is similar to what other parameters, other metals, other things shouldn't be there, but as a more or less as a guideline or a secondary standard. But I was impressed by the two doctors that I met during my treatment at the Holy Family and the Northeast Rehab. They emphasized that people like myself should be on low or no sodium diets, for one thing. And then I said that actually you can do that pretty easy by looking at labels, but every day we may be ingesting or drinking water which is much higher than 20 milligrams per liter, which is the recommended guideline. And so I started to look at communities in the Merrimack River and Merrimack Valley, and I'm going to do a kind of a little study about that, Tim, you know?
All right. Actually, now, doesn't every city and town, or aren't all the cities and towns required to issue a water report each year?
Yes, that's called the annual consumer report, and on an annual basis, that's required.
Now,
and people should really look at that.
I believe it comes with the water bill, but I think I've seen them in the mayor's office in Haverhill City Hall. If someone wants to go pick up one of these, I don't know where they are in the other city and town halls.
Well, ordinarily they're mailed to every taxpayer. They're mailed to everybody in the municipality. Like I got mine not too long ago. I'd say a month ago or so. I got mine, and so I was interested in looking at it again. And I think Methuen had 30 milligrams per liter. You know, the guideline is 20. But the ironic thing about it, Tim, is that the chemical that's generally used for what they call pH adjustment and corrosion, sodium hydroxide, could be the same results could be attained by using calcium hydroxide.
All right, so this is what is this a water treatment purification system?
Yes. The other thing is also in disinfection.
So the salt in our water supply isn't necessarily coming from runoffs.
Some of them, I would say, quite a little is. But at the same time, we're adding it with the use of sodium hydroxide for pH control during coagulation, and sodium hypochlorite to disinfect the water prior to going out to the distribution system.
All right. So
and those two chemicals alone could reduce the sodium in the municipality's drinking water.
Well, maybe we should have Mr. Ward for Haverhill's Water Department on the program someday and talk about that. So you're saying that see, I've always been under the impression that the salt that got into our water supply is from the sanding and salting trucks doing the roads, and that washed into the water supply. You're saying we actually, as cities and towns, intentionally are putting salt in our water as part of another process.
That's right. Sodium hydroxide and sodium hypochlorite are both great chemicals, but actually the use of them adds to the sodium burden. There's obviously sodium in the raw water, the Merrimack River. I would expect that in the springtime, in the spring thaw, that the sodium levels in the raw water, we'll call before treatment, are pretty high, you know, and
pretty high from runoff.
It's really not a sexy subject, you know, or some subject that would get a lot of people's interest. But
Actually, I think you're doing a public service. There may be a lot of people out there listening or watching that have a salt-restricted diet, and they're actually violating it by drinking water from their faucet.
Well, the thing is that everybody who has, especially the elderly, who you drink the city water. You drink city water. It's something that could be replaced by using potassium hydroxide instead of sodium hydroxide, and potassium hypochlorite instead of sodium hypochlorite for disinfection. Those things, but the problem is that every time you talk to somebody who's in charge, like I did for the last 2 years, potassium hydroxide costs more money.
I was just going to ask that. So is the reason our cities and towns aren't using these alternative chemicals?
There's only one to my knowledge. Today I started to do a little research, and there's only one to my knowledge that uses potassium hydroxide for pH control and calcium hypochlorite for disinfection. There's only one community that I know of that uses it.
Okay, let me ask you this. You're on a salt-restricted diet, and Methuen is 30, what is the measurement? The 30
milligrams per liter. I think that's what it was.
So is that too high for the diet you're on? And if so, are you buying bottled water? How are you?
I have been drinking bottled water, but every time you make coffee and you use the tap water, or if you made stew or anything like that, you're using, in many cases. Basically, what I'm going to try to do is pick out the communities along the Merrimack River who take the Merrimack River in. For example, Haverhill at the present time doesn't. Although Haverhill has authority to withdraw from the Merrimack, they haven't gone that way yet.
We're largely from Canosa Lake and Crystal Lake, I believe.
That's right. Their source is Canosa Lake. And I'm pretty sure there is a moratorium on the use of sodium chloride around Canosa Lake. So
I believe all the streets around there are marked as low salt areas.
Exactly, low salt, no salt.
All right, so now how do we know that bottled water is salt-free or lower salt?
Bottled water is regulated pretty well in Massachusetts. All the sources are reviewed and inspected by DEP. The bottled water program is actually in the Department of Public Health responsibility. However, they are working as a partner with DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, to implement that program. And basically, what DEP employees are doing is they're going to do what's called the primary investigation, the source. They go right to the well. I can recall many years ago, maybe I don't know how many years, 30 years ago, traveling all the way to Poland Springs, Maine, to look at their wells.
All right. Jerry, I'm afraid to say we are out of time. I have to take this break. Chris?
I think one important thing in closing is to make sure that people look at their consumer report that they get on an annual basis and ask questions of the municipality as to how, if any way, they can reduce the input as a result of the use of these chemicals. In other words, switch to chemicals that do not, even though it's costly, because sodium hydroxide, sodium is a sequestering agent. Almost, it holds on to the fluid in your body. It raises blood pressure. There's been numerous studies by the Heart Association showing the problems with
sodium. It's a very good point. So, listeners at home, Jerry from Methuen is teaching us a valuable lesson. Check your salt. If you're on a salt-restricted diet, don't assume your tap water is salt-free. Check your local water reports. And if you don't remember or you lost it, I believe they're still available in city and town halls across the Merrimack Valley.
I think you can probably get it on the web, on the municipal web.
Actually, that's probably even a better suggestion for some. If you have internet and computer access, you may be able to find it on your city or town's home website. All right, and then Jerry's also educated me that, bottled water is pretty well regulated, so that probably is
safe. It is well regulated.
All right. So, well, Jerry, I'm really happy to hear from you again. I was getting concerned when I didn't hear from you for a few weeks on the program, and we're glad you're on the mend, and we do hope you keep in touch, and love to hear the results of your study.
Investigation, yes. I have a lot of time here, and I'll make the phone calls, and I'll get copies of the reports, and we'll see what's happening in the Merrimack Valley, or those communities that have use the Merrimack River, or any source of water which is subject to road salt, river, etc.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jerry. Let's keep in touch.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your call. All right.
Bye-bye.
That's Jerry from Methuen, that we've dubbed the Open Mic Show environmental consultant. All right, this hour we got to take a brief break for a movie review. Chris is going to take us to the movie review. We'll be back with more of the Open Mic Show and a surprise special guest telling us about that TV you might have right now in your living room that you spent the big bucks on. You might have to throw it away. Maybe that's an exaggeration, I don't know. But we'll be back. We'll tell you more about that in a second.
Open Mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
This is Phil Christie. Listen to The Wave with fewer interruptions, no pop-ups, and a choice of players by tuning directly from www.whav.net.
Smart companies choose the Merrimack Valley. They're attracted by the region's technology and innovation, housing and education, workforce, arts, culture, and recreation, and convenient location and easy access. Learn more and look at profiles of all 24 cities and towns at the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council website at merrimackvalley.info.
Catch the wave!
This is Jim Hightower, asking you to listen to my Little Pops of Populism 3 times a day, right here on WHAV. Only local radio at its finest. WHAV brings you this populist feature. So catch the wave, and you'll catch my commentaries. Thank you.
This is Take 2 Movie Review. I'm Kim Lowe. This week, director Brad Bird lays an egg. Movies with messages are nothing new in Bird's resume. In 2007's Ratatouille, for example, the message was that with enough hard work and chutzpah, anyone, or in that case, any rat, could become a chef and even realize his dream of running a restaurant. However, while the message was clear enough that even a child could pick up on it, the audience never felt they were being hit over the head with a frying pan. Plus, there was a lightness, charm, and humor that made Ratatouille enjoyable for viewers of all ages. Therefore, it's too bad the same cannot be said for Bird's latest offering, Tomorrowland. Despite stunning cinematography and special effects, and a solid cast that includes good performances by George Clooney, Britt Robertson, and newcomer Raffi Cassidy, Tomorrowland feels less like a movie and more like a recruitment video, put out by a well-intended nonprofit aimed at millennials, informing them that while yes, things are bad, they are nonetheless fixable. While this isn't a bad message in and of itself, it certainly does feel forced, and by the end of the movie, even the most optimistic Pollyanna may scream, enough already. It's too bad, because if done correctly, it could have worked. However, the main problem is that Tomorrowland plays like two movies, the first being the story of Clooney and Robertson's respective experiences in Tomorrowland of the past, and the second being their eventual arrival together to the Tomorrowland of the present. The shift is too sudden and abrupt, and frankly too violent for most viewers who've come to expect certain things from a Disney film. While one can applaud Bird for taking risks, sadly this is a case where they simply do not pay off. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Kim Lowe. Catch up with us at Take2MovieReview.com and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Take2_Review.
Soft gold favorites. WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
All right, we're on the Open Mic Show. This hour of Open Mic being brought to you by the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council. Smart companies choose the Merrimack Valley. All right, in the studio now, Mike Hemian, who is the now retired Director of Network Operations for none other than NBC, is here to tell us about what's going to be happening to your television set in the next few years. Mike, thanks for coming on the Open Mic Show, traveling here from New Jersey. Mike was here visiting and learning about our FM plans, and find out he's a wealth of information on other subjects. So you were involved in the rollout of what we now know as HDTV.
Yes.
And there's a big change coming, did you tell us?
Well, there were two systems. One was called 8VSB, which is what we use, and it was purely political, and it's totally inferior to what the rest of the world uses, which is a DVB standard. It's called COFDM, not to get too geeky, but coded orthogonal frequency division multiplexing. You can put an antenna in your car and watch television, you know, in your automobile. You can put it it's like old analog TV used to be, only perfect.
I have as a back. I have cable television, like a lot of people, and I think you telling me during the break that if you're on cable, you have a few more years you can get out of your set. But at my house, I have a converter box, so I can watch off-the-air television should I want to. But we're 30 miles outside of Boston, and probably more miles away from the towers in Needham. I get 3 stations. Because with digital, if you don't get it well, you don't get it.
It's either excellent or absent.
So you're saying there's a better system?
There's a better system. And what's happening is we have an inferior system. And what they're going to do is now they're calling it ATS3, which is Advanced Television. That's what they call it. Versions 1, 2, and 3. And version 3 is COFDM, which is what we should have gone to begin with. So the reason they're doing this is because the wireless networks, they're requiring more bandwidth. So let's say channels 2, 4, and 7, which really aren't on 2, 4, and 7. Let's say they sell their bandwidth, give it to the FCC for auction, they're getting some money back. And channel 4 does the same thing. Well, what's going to happen on channel 7 is, and they're probably going to get some of the money too, is they're going to put 3 television stations on 1 TV channel.
All right, so this other system allows more compression, is that the correct term?
More compression, and as far as they're calling, the FCC is calling it repackaging. If you go on the FCC site and nose around there, you can see what's going on. But the bottom line is, if you receive television over the air, you're either going to have to buy a new television set, or you're going to have to buy a converter box. If you're on cable, you know, you're golden.
During the original rollout of HDTV, I believe and this is probably another form of politics, the government paid for coupons for people to get free converter boxes.
That's correct.
Will that happen this time, you think?
I hope not. They did that last time, and what happened was I think they spent nearly $1 billion on it. It lasted about 6 months, and everyone went out and bought a new TV anyway.
Yeah, I kind of wondered, this brings out my more fiscally conservative side, why it was the government's or the taxpayers' expense for these converter boxes.
Why? I don't know. Lobbyist? Hey, I make these boxes. What do you say?
All right. So, a different person is telling me it's time for a break. My clock says I have a minute, so I'm going to take it, and my clock is probably wrong. But anyway, Mike, when can we expect to see these new TV sets in stores?
Well, actually, the new TV sets in stores, the TVs are already everywhere in the world except the United States.
Oh, so this is going to be actually easier for manufacturers to make.
Yeah, just roll them out.
All right, so they're going to bring us the TVs. Now, our crude, which is working terribly tonight, our crude television system here in the studio is 1280 wide by 720 deep.
I've never heard it described like that, but you're right.
Well, I'm trying to find a way to explain it to the audience.
Yeah.
But I believe television, high-definition television is what, 1080?
It can be, there's actually 4 flavors. There's 1080, 1080p progressive, 1080i interlace, which is the old system where it scans every other line, and there's 720p, which is what some of the networks use. And if you look at...
So we made our own system up then with this?
Well, yeah. There was not... Well, the FCC said instead of one standard, they said, well, you pick what you want. And
right.
480p, actually 480i is the standard old-fashioned, type TV.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll just get Chris annoyed. Now it's 8 o'clock. But I actually, people may find this surprising, but I had, as I guess it's a hobby, electronics, but I started in high school with taking a shop classes and learned about 525 line television, which is what we had beforehand. Sort of. But there were retrace lines, so not all of those.
Well, that's what interlace means. Odd scan, even scan. And when you're young, back then, you could probably hear that high-pitched tone.
It's funny. I think I could. Yeah. All right. Now I have a triple warning. Jay McDonough is here, and I think Chris thought he couldn't beat me up, but Jay probably can.
I thought that was an old CB term. Break.
Oh yes, Breaker 19. This convoy, whatever it is. All right, we're gonna take a break for local news with News Director Dana Esmel, national news from FSN, local weather, and I don't know if Mike can hang around or not, but if he can, maybe we'll talk a little more about why you have to throw your television away after the news. We'll be back.
Open mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
It's 8:02.
WHAV Merrimack Valley. WHAV is a not-for-profit service of Public Media of New England Incorporated. It's heard on 1640 AM, the web, at whav.net, and participating cable television stations.
Here's what's happening in local news. The union representing Haverhill Public School teachers plans to campaign in the coming weeks for public awareness to a, quote, new fair contract for Haverhill's educators, end quote. The Haverhill Education Association is asking, quote, all stakeholders, educators, parents, students, voters, and property owners to gather at City Hall prior to, among other sessions, Thursday's school committee meeting, according to an online message posted Sunday. The so-called City Hall standouts are being held in the wake of HEA's claim Haverhill teachers earn the lowest salaries in the region. They are also organizing a Call City Hall campaign to members of the school committee and city council. Quote, in the last contract, which took several years to negotiate, Haverhill teachers accepted a raise of 4.5% over 6 years, with 3 years of raises at 0%. That agreement ended in June of 2014. A year has since passed, and the school committee has given raises to administrators at virtually every level, yet is offering Haverhill educators 0% for the year, which is now nearly over, and a paltry 1% for each of the next two, the HEA said in a statement. The teachers' union has been seeking a contract agreement with the Haverhill Public School District by the end of the current school year. As of Monday, there are no scheduled negotiating sessions for the teachers before June 30th. The most recent negotiations were held May 27. The month of June means bi-weekly meetings for the Haverhill City Council as it enters its summer schedule. The council will next meet in regular session Tuesday, June 16. The council will resume its weekly meeting schedule on Tuesday, September 8. U.S. Small Business Administration Massachusetts Director Robert Nelson will be the featured speaker at the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce's annual Small Business Recognition Awards breakfast Friday, June 12. The event, to be held from 7:30 to 9 a.m. at DeBurrow's Function Hall, 887 Boston Road, Ward Hill, will recognize area small businesses in categories of, among others, innovative, minority-owned, nonprofit, perseverance, and, quote, a special salute to family-owned businesses, end quote. Cost is $25 for MVCC members and $35 for non-members. For more information, visit www.merrimackvalleychamber.com or call 978-686-0900. 3 people are due to be arraigned in Haverhill District Court on drunk driving and motor vehicle charges following separate arrests over the weekend. According to Haverhill Police, Jairo Ruiz, 45, address not listed, was arrested at 9:58 p.m. Saturday at 400 Lowell Avenue. He was charged with operating a motor vehicle under the influence of liquor, operating after license revocation, refusal to identify self, and giving a false name to police. He was also taken into custody on an outstanding warrant charging him with perjury, uttering a false document, and making a false application for a license. Earlier Saturday, police report Judy A. Houle, 52, of 22 Phoenix Row, Unit 203, Haverhill, was arrested at 5:55 p.m. at 2 Water Street. She was charged with operating a motor vehicle under the influence of liquor, operating under the influence of drugs, and possession of a Class E drug. She was also taken into custody on a warrant charging her with operating a motor vehicle with a suspended registration and operating an uninsured motor vehicle. Also, police arrested Walter Avila, 29, of 21 4th Avenue, Unit 2, Haverhill, at 10 p.m. Friday at 73 White Street. He was charged with operating a motor vehicle under the influence of liquor and unlicensed operation of a motor vehicle. In other police news, a Haverhill woman is due in court to face charges in connection with the disturbance early Sunday morning at 85 White Street. According to Haverhill Police, Caitlin L. Zangari, 24, of 113 White Street, Haverhill, was arrested at 2:30 a.m. Sunday. She was charged with disorderly conduct, intimidation of a witness, and threatening. In local high school sports, Whittier Tech Wildcats varsity baseball and softball host MIAA playoff action. Both games play at 4 p.m. Meanwhile, the Whittier Athletic Department is looking ahead to the fall sports season, as fall sports registration is now open. Anyone interested in playing a fall sport must register online as soon as possible. For more details, visit whav.net. Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source, and it's always free. In the Edwin V. Johnson newsroom, this is Dana Esmel.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Kevin McAleese. US President Barack Obama says significant progress has been made against the Islamic State, but more needs to be done. He and coalition partners are reviewing their strategy, but following his meeting with Iraqi Prime Minister Abadi, says Baghdad has more to do as well. Speaking at the G7 summit in Bavaria, President Obama told reporters, in addition to a military solution, a political solution is needed for a complete strategy.
We don't yet have a complete strategy because it requires commitments on the part of the Iraqis as well about how recruitment takes place, how that training takes place. And so the details of that are not yet worked out.
The United Nations has accused Eritrea of crimes against humanity in a new report detailing human rights violations in the East African state. UN investigators said in a statement the human rights abuses were happening on a scale seldom witnessed elsewhere, and that up to 5,000 people a month are risking death to escape the country. Patrice Howard reports from the UN headquarters.
The UN Commission found systematic, widespread human rights violations in Eritrea, including torture, sexual slavery, enforced labor, and illegal killings. The 484-page report released Monday details how these crimes against humanity are carried out and even encouraged by Eritrea's government authorities. The inquiry found the government recruiting people for national service to the country, which involves arbitrary detention, torture, and forced labor. Witnesses say those who avoid the draft are executed, and the 6 to 10% of Eritreans who have escaped the violence are now registered as refugees by the UN.
The manhunt continues for convicted killers Richard Matt and David Sweat, who escaped from a prison in upstate New York over the weekend. The two, who were first discovered missing early Saturday morning, are believed to have orchestrated their escape using power tools to penetrate the prison walls. Mimi Chiman reports.
As the manhunt enters a third day, more than 250 law enforcement and corrections officials are actively engaged in the search. New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo is offering a $50,000 reward per inmate for information leading directly to their arrest. This isn't the first prison break for 48-year-old Matt, who escaped from prison in 1986. He was serving 25 years to life for 3 counts of murder, kidnapping, and robbery. 34-year-old Sweat was serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole for the murder of a sheriff's deputy. Given the prison's proximity to Canada, authorities at the international border have been notified, but a New York state official said they could literally be anywhere. Mimi Chahiman, New York.
For all the latest breaking news and updates, remember to follow our team of international reporters on Twitter at Feature Story. From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
Wave weather.
I'm WHAV meteorologist Gary Best with wave weather. Breezy and mild for the Merrimack Valley through the night with a lot of clouds in general. A chance of scattered showers, maybe a thunderstorm. Low temperature, low 60s. Now, periods of clouds on Tuesday with scattered showers and thunderstorms, mid-70s. Any showers in Tuesday evening, down to 60 overnight. Mostly sunny and warm Wednesday. High temperature back up to 80 to 85. This is Gary Best. Your next wave weather coming up in 30 minutes.
Stay informed each day with local news, coupled with Pacifica's worldwide coverage. Only local radio can bring you local news, but only WHAV does.
Catch the wave, WHAV, Merrimack Valley. Open mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Welcome back to the Open Mic Show, a 50-year staple of democracy in the Merrimack Valley. This hour of Open Mic being brought to you by the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council. Smart companies choose the Merrimack Valley. And if you haven't seen it, be sure to go to merrimackvalley.info, and you can download Merrimack Valley Happenings. That's a great online publication from the council, and just about any event you can think of, from free to high price, whether it's a movie, a play, a plant show, what have you. If you're looking for something to do and you're watching your budget, download Merrimack Valley Happenings at merrimackvalley.info. All right, we'll continue our conversation with Mike Hemian, and I'm just so intrigued. He told me something earlier that I really think that we should share with the listeners and viewers. you worked at Channel 11 in Durham, New Hampshire. Was it Durham?
Right.
And you worked with someone familiar to us. Who was that?
Tom Bergeron, but I worked with Lois Harmon, which is
Tom's-
Mrs. Bergeron now.
Tom's wife, Lois.
I know Lois.
And I had mentioned to Mike that Tom gives all the credit to his wife Lois for getting him into television. He was pretty happy in radio, worked at WHEB in Portsmouth after leaving WHAV. And you knew something about that story, right?
I was working there then. I actually did camera and audio when he'd do the inserts for a magazine show. A lot of your listeners and viewers probably remember a show called New Hampshire Crossroads. It was like a magazine show, like, PM Magazine or Evening
That's
Magazine.
right.
They do, different places, and he'd do the inserts for it. That's how we get started. And Lois got him started working on the Channel 11 auction. He did a radio remote first, and she said, well, why don't you go on the air? So he went on the air, and he was good at it, and he looked good on TV, and so they got him the Crossroads thing, and, it was rock and roll time after that.
And then later on, maybe his next stop was WBZ's People Are Talking. Is that right?
He did that, and I think he had didn't he have a morning show on FX or something
Yes,
like that?
that was the new, what's it called, Fox After Breakfast?
Yes.
And I think channel was FX. Matter of fact,
It was FX.
interestingly, it was not on our local cable system, and the mayor at the time and others put on this big letter writing campaign or something to I think we were Cablevision at the time, and so many mergers later I've lost track, but they ignored us. So we never got FX, I don't think. Maybe it's on now, but who watches it? But in any event, I guess he filled in on Good Morning America, so he really became TV
He was good at it.
personality.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he was good at it. You could see something was going to happen to him. He wasn't your average, he wasn't your average TV commentator. He stood out. He knew what he was doing, and he was very comfortable, wasn't nervous at all.
When we did the 60th anniversary of WHAV a few years ago, I'll tell you some stories on the air, and maybe our listeners will enjoy them if they haven't already heard them too many times from me. But, I worked with Tom. We overlapped when I was at WHAV. I was a couple of years younger, but we both came from Haverhill High School. We both had the same mentor, Edwin V. Johnson, who was our public speaking instructor, who happened to work afternoons at the radio station. Great way in.
Oh, that's true. Any way in is perfectly all right.
So, so I called, I thought maybe, I know he's busy, he's really big, he had a couple of shows at the time, I might have been still doing Hollywood Squares. I thought, almost sheepishly, calling and hoping that he'll do a telephone interview maybe for a couple of minutes for the 60th anniversary of WHAV. And he said, when is it? And I told him it was, 60 years after, so it would be March 16th, 2007. And he said, I'll be there. Flew in, drove, maybe had a rental, or maybe got it from his house in Connecticut, I'm not sure which, but he drove all the way up here alone and came into the station. But we had a bit of a surprise for him. While we were doing research on the history of the station, I had vaguely remembered the morning news person when I worked at WHAV, Ralph Hall, mentioning something about Gary Lapierre. So I called Ralph, who just passed away last year. I called Ralph, and I said, what were you saying years ago? And he had to scratch his head, and he said, oh, yeah, I replaced Gary Lapierre at WHAV in the early 60s. I said, it doesn't show up on his resume. He doesn't mention it. He said, I swear it's true. So I called Gary Lapierre, who overlapped with Tom Bergeron at BZ. And I called Gary and I asked, hey, Gary, you worked at HAV? And he says, you found me out, in the only way that Gary Lapierre could say it. And I said, so what do you mean? He says, that was my first radio job and the first job I was ever fired from.
Oh, there you go.
And he said, I never told anybody. I never even told BZ. I went to BZ like a kid out of school. So we had some fun.
Kid out of Graham Junior College. My alma mater. Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh,
Yours?
yeah. Yep.
So it's all these connections. So Gary still had, I guess in the now it can be told, Gary had just retired from WBZ in 2007, and he had done his last newscast out of his condo in Florida. And BZ had not yet removed that equipment. And we got an ISDN contractor so that we could tie into his equipment, and he did the show from there on BZ's equipment, and Tom and Gary had some fun. All right, Chris, he didn't even yell at me, which is amazing. It's 8:18 as far as I can tell. Let's take a brief break for Community Spotlight. We'll be back with former NBC Director of Network Operations, Mike Hemian, in just a minute.
Open mic!
Tim Coco and the Open Mic will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900 or email tcoco@whav.net. If you are enjoying this program, please consider making a donation right now. Your donations to not-for-profit WHAV help keep these vital community services on the air. Donate online at www.whav.net.
This spot could have been yours. Support WHAV's local approach with your underwriting. Go to whav.net and click on Support to reach thousands of new customers.
Catch the wave!
On air or online, WHAV serves you. All day long, keep up to date with tenacious but objective local reporting from the only Haverhill-based news source. Find out about civic and charitable events on Community Spotlight every quarter hour, and better prepare with wave weather heard every 30 minutes. For talk, there's Tom Hartman weekdays at noon, the Open Mic Show every Monday night, and David Packman Tuesday through Friday nights. And there's more. Hear classic comedy and drama 7 nights a week at 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. Finally, a unique blend of soft gold music radiates day and night. Only local radio can bring you this combination of music, news, and features, but only WHAV does.
Community Spotlight.
The Haverhill Council on Aging is sponsoring a motor coach trip to Atlantic City, Philadelphia, and Lancaster, Pennsylvania. The trip includes 2 nights in Lancaster, 1 in Atlantic City, a $15 gambling bonus, 5 meals, the Amish experience, Joseph the Musical Show, and a guided tour of Philadelphia. The trip departs Monday, October 12th and returns Thursday, October 15th. Cost is $3.99 per person, double occupancy. Contact Kathy or Rita at 978-374-2390 for additional information. Someone you know is on WHAV. To submit or read your own nonprofit announcements, click on the Contact tab at whav.net or email news@whav.net. In the Edwin V. Johnson newsroom, this is Alyssa Torres.
WHAV Open Mic.
From the Edwin V. Johnson newsroom, WHAV presents the Open Mic Show with Tim Coco. Make your voice heard. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900. Or email tcoco@whav.net.
Back on the Open Mic, this hour being brought to you by the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council. Smart companies. Choose the Merrimack Valley. Okay, Mike Hemian with us here. We've had so many good stories. I forget where we're going to pick up from, but you're from Revere originally?
Revere Beach.
How did you end up with NBC? I mean, and you were at Channel 11 at some point, so...
And how I started out in radio.
Started out in radio.
WEMJ, Laconia, CGY, CCM, and I said to myself, well, this is fun, but there's no money in it, let's face it.
So you worked with Kurt Gowdy's stations.
Yeah.
What years were those?
What year was that? You remember? It was in the late 70s. We did see the wall. He'd have a wall in his office, and you'd push it, and there was a bar behind it.
A bar behind it. Well, that's interesting. So that brings us maybe another connection. Pat Johnson, Ed Johnson's widow, was Kurt Gowdy's secretary.
She probably knows about the bar too.
So she probably did. Pat,
Actually,
if you're watching, I'm going to ask you about the bar. And now Kurt always did something nice for, well, at least the people he liked. Every year, Ed Johnson would drive up to WHAV. He and Pat met at HAV in the 50s, and they had a show called Friday Night Shoppers after they got married, which was broadcast on air. They became the newlyweds, and maybe it was not a good idea to work together. I don't know the backstory, so she went to WCCM. But every year, they had a brand new Oldsmobile, I think, and it's because Kurt Gowdy knew how to trade radio for cars, and always had a deal. But did you know Ted Nahill then? He was chief engineer back when those were required.
I knew... what was his name? Norm. What was his? I can't remember his last name.
All right, so it must have been
Norm Round.
All right, so
Norman Round.
Ted probably replaced him then. Ted started at WHAV, Ted Nahill, and then I believe he's with one of the major broadcast equipment suppliers now in Florida, which name escapes me right now. But so you got sick of radio, was it?
I like the money in TV. You know, TV was years ago when you sell a television station. You know, they say, well, you get the building, you get all that equipment out there, and you see those guys over there, they come with you too. Talent, like they sold Channel 25. They were doing a remote, and I was telling them, everyone's going, oh, worried we're going to get fired. And I go, don't be. See the people in front of the camera? They should be worried. You shouldn't be worried. And sure enough, the news director came in and go, well, you go, and you go.
All right.
So anyway, so what happened was I worked at Channel 7, did radio, worked at Channel 11, and back then PBS got all of their programming via satellite. And you'd go in this trailer, and it was like NASA. You know, nowadays everything in that trailer fits in the palm of your hand. But I looked at it and I said, this is going to be something someday. So they were building a news channel to compete with CNN. It was called the Satellite News Channel in Stamford, Connecticut. And they didn't have anyone looking for people with television and satellite experience. You know, it just didn't exist. And I was just receive satellite. That was transmit satellite. So I worked there. And remember when they split up AT&T?
Oh, yes, 1984.
To get a television used to be distributed by coax cable through the telephone company. So when they broke it up, you would have had to get a signal from New York to Boston. You have to go through 20 local cable companies, and one TV. You know, that was a big pain. We used to deal with that a little bit too. So they went to satellite. So I worked for Westinghouse in Stamford.
So the breakup of AT&T helped propel satellite.
Oh, absolutely. You know,
I did not know that.
Yeah, and so we were trying to sell this service to NBC, and NBC came in and they're selling it. And they said, well, we have this Earth station and we can do all this stuff. And they go, no, we don't want that. We'll take those 4 guys over there though, and that's how we went to NBC.
Oh, I see.
And we did an experimental bandwidth. Most cable stations use something that's called C-band, which is 4 gigahertz to 6 gigahertz, which is 4,000 megahertz to 6,000 megahertz. We went to KU band because back then the telephone company used to share the C band with terrestrial. So if I wanted to do an uplink, I'd have to get a license from the FCC so we wouldn't interfere with each other.
So but a lot of our network programming comes from KU.
Exactly, and that's 14 gigahertz, 14,000 megahertz to 16 gigahertz, or 16,000 megahertz, and that was all experimental. And a rain cloud would come in, and the signal would drop down. So they had to modify the signal, and they had to put limiters in there, which means you slam the satellite with power. So as it got pushed down, that you wouldn't notice it on the satellite.
I see. Luckily, we don't have a satellite dish, so we actually the network also downloads their satellite to a cable feed, and we pick it up off the internet. So it's from the satellite, which means of course, a good question is why don't they have a direct feed? But in any event, it monitors the satellites. If anything goes wrong, we have the same problem on the internet.
Yeah. So, you can't, you keep in mind that the higher the frequency, the smaller the wave.
That's right.
Well, when you're dealing with KU band, it's this big, and when a raindrop falls, it doesn't look like something you see. It's like a flat splatter, and when it comes down, it's the same size as the wavelength, so it absorbs it, so it can't get to the satellite or back down from the satellite.
Oh, yeah, a wealth of information. So, when did you retire?
About 8 years ago. I blew my kidneys out. I've got 4 kidneys. For all of you out there with 4 kidneys, hey, it's going out to you.
Wow. So you have twice as many.
Twice as many, only one that works.
Only one that works. Wow. Now we have a couple minutes left, and maybe less if Chris looks at the clock. You were involved in reconstructing television in New York after the World Trade Centers came down?
Yeah. We our uplink was on the what is now the Fox building, formerly Sam Goody's. It's a Sam Goody record store.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And we had the infrastructure already up on the roof, so we ordered a television transmitter and a television antenna, and it was flown in, and we called Washington, the attorney in there, and 15 minutes later we got a license.
Now, isn't that amazing, folks? Those of you who are waiting for a government form to come in the mail, you need this guy who got it in 15 minutes.
The NBC attorney.
NBC attorney. All right, I'm going to assume, I can't see the seconds on this clock, that we are out of time. But Mike, I really appreciate your coming into the station today. I think we have a lot more to talk about. We're going to off air, folks. Privately, we're going to work on Mike to get some advice for our new WHAV FM at 97.9 coming soon. All right, that's it for the Open Mic Show. Please join us again next Monday night at 6:30. Thanks to Chris Porter for producing the program. We'll be back next week.
Open Mic!
Join Tim Coco live on the Open Mic again next Monday night at 6:30. The opinions expressed on the Open Mic Show are not necessarily those of WHAV, its underwriters, or affiliated stations. The Open Mic Show came to you from the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom.